God is telling you to breathe. The outcome is in my hands, and this season will not break you. There are moments when the soul grows so tired that even prayer feels heavy. When the heart carries questions it no longer has the strength to ask aloud. In such moments, God does not always thunder answers from the heavens, nor does he rush to explain every mystery that presses upon your mind. Often, he speaks more gently, more intimately, as one might speak to a frightened child in the dark. He says, breathe, not as a command born of impatience, but as an invitation rooted in love. Breathe because you are not abandoned. Breathe because this moment, however sharp or prolonged, has not slipped beyond his notice. Breathe because the outcome does not rest upon your trembling hands, but upon his steady and faithful ones. We are inclined to believe that strength means holding everything together by sheer effort, as though life were a fragile tower that will collapse the moment we loosen our grip. Yet God, in his quiet wisdom, reminds us that true strength often begins where striving ends. When he tells you to breathe, he is not dismissing the seriousness of your pain or the weight of your responsibilities. He's reminding you that you were never meant to carry the universe on your shoulders. That burden belongs to him, and he bears it without strain. The very breath in your lungs is evidence that he is nearer than your fears would have you believe. Consider how often we mistake urgency for importance, noise for necessity, and exhaustion for faithfulness. We rush through days as though salvation depended on our speed, as though peace were a prize awarded only to the most relentless. God does not measure your worth by how quickly you solve your problems, or how silently you endure them. He measures it by love, a love so deep that it holds you even when you can no longer hold yourself. When he whispers, "The outcome is in my hands," he is not asking you to stop caring, he is asking you to stop despairing. This season, whatever its shape or name, feels as though it has tested you at every turn. Perhaps it has stripped away comforts you once took for granted, or forced you to confront weaknesses you hoped would remain hidden. It may have lingered longer than you expected, stretching your patience thin and leaving you to wonder whether relief will ever come. Yet God speaks into this very uncertainty with a promise that does not depend on circumstances. This season will not break you. It may bend you, refine you, even humble you, but it will not destroy what he himself has formed. There is a profound difference between being broken and being reshaped. Broken things are discarded, reshaped things are prepared for greater purpose. God is not careless with your life, nor is he wasteful with your suffering. Every tear, every unanswered question, every weary sigh is gathered into his larger design, even when that design remains hidden from your sight. To trust this is not naive optimism, it is a deliberate act of faith, grounded in the character of a God who has never failed to keep his word. When God tells you to breathe, he is also reminding you of something deeply theological and wonderfully practical. You are finite, and he is not. Your vision is narrow, confined to the present moment, while his stretches across eternity. What feels like a dead end to you may be, in his hands, a necessary turning point. What appears to be delay may be protection. What feels like loss may be the clearing away of lesser thin, to make room for something truer and more enduring. We often ask God to show us the whole map, to explain every step before we take it. Yet he knows that such knowledge would overwhelm rather than comfort us. Instead, he offers enough light for the next step and asks us to trust him with the rest. Breathing, then, becomes an act of surrender, a way of saying, "I do not see the full picture, I trust the one who does." Each breath is a small declaration of faith, a quiet rebellion against fear. Fear tells you that if you stop striving, everything will fall apart. Faith tells you that if you stop striving, you will finally notice that God has been holding everything together all along. Fear insists that this season is evidence of your failure or God's absence. Faith counters that this season is part of a story till being written, one in which grace has the final word. God does not rush his stories, and he does not abandon them midway. It is tempting to measure God's goodness by the ease of our circumstances, to assume that his favor is proven only by comfort and success. But the deeper truth is that his goodness is often revealed most clearly in endurance, in the quiet strength that carries us through what we would never have chosen. The promise that this season will not break you does not mean it will be painless. It means that pain will not have the authority to define you or the power to destroy what God is doing within you. When you feel overwhelmed, remember that breathing is not passive resignation, it is active trust. It is choosing to pause rather than panic, to listen rather than lash out, to rest rather than run yourself into the ground. In that pause, God meets you, not with condemnation for your weakness, but with compassion for your humanity. He knows the limits of your strength because he designed them. He knows when you need rest because he himself rested. There is a quiet courage in believing that God's hands are steadier than your own. Those hands shape the mountain and set boundaries for the seas, yet they are gentle enough to wipe away tears you thought no one saw. To place the outcome in his hands is not to give up responsibility. It is to place responsibility in its proper order. You do what you can with faithfulness and integrity, and you trust him with what you cannot control. This season, though heavy, is not purposeless. It is teaching you things comfort never could. It is deepening your compassion, sharpening your discernment, and loosening your grip on illusions of self-sufficiency. God is not interested in producing a life that merely looks impressive from the outside. He is forming a heart that can endure truth, love deeply, and remain faithful even when the path is unclear. As you breathe, you may begin to notice subtle changes. Not the dramatic reversal you long for, perhaps, but small signs of grace, a moment of peace where there was only anxiety, a glimmer of hope where there was despair, a quiet assurance that you are not alone. These are not coincidences, they are reminders. God often works in whispers long before he works in wonders. You may still have questions, and that is not a failure of faith. Faith does not eliminate questions, it carries them honestly into God's presence. When he tells you that the outcome is in his hands, he is not silencing your doubts, he is anchoring you amid them. You are allowed to wonder, to wrestle, even to weep, so long as you do not forget who holds you while you do. There is also a strange mercy in seasons that slow us down. In the stillness forced upon us, we sometimes hear God more clearly than in times of abundance. When distractions fall away, we are confronted not only with our fears, but also with God's faithfulness. Breathing becomes a rhythm of remembrance, a way of aligning your anxious heart with eternal truth. You are not defined by how well you are coping. You are defined by the God who called you by name and promised never to leave you. This season does not have the authority to rewrite that identity. It may challenge it, test it, even obscure it for a time, but it cannot erase what God has declared. To breathe is to remember who you belong to, even when you forget who you are. God's assurance that this season will not break you is rooted not in your resilience, but in his redemption. You are not surviving by accident, you are being sustained by grace. Every day you rise, every moment you endure, is evidence of a strength that does not originate in you alone. That strength is borrowed from the one who promises to renew it when yours is gone. So breathe, not because everything is suddenly easy, but because everything is held. Breathe, not because the path is clear, but because the guide is faithful. Breathe, because even now in the DST of uncertainty, God is at work in ways you cannot yet see, weaving purpose out of pain and hope, out of waiting. And as you breathe, allow this truth to settle deeper into your heart, that the hands holding your future are the same hands that have carried you through every moment until now, and they will not let go as this story continues to unfold. Those hands have never trembled, even when ours did. They have never rushed, even when you felt time pressing hard against your chest. God is not anxious about what comes next, though anxiety may have become a familiar companion to you. He stands outside the panic of deadlines and diagnoses, outside the noise of opinions and predictions, and he looks at your life with a calm that is not careless but complete. When he asks you to breathe, he is inviting you to step, if only for a moment, into that calm with him. You see, much of your weariness comes not only from what you are facing, but from how tightly you have been gripping the need to understand it all. You have been trying to read the final chapter while still living in the middle pages, straining your eyes and exhausting your heart. God does not scold you for this, he knows T is human to want clarity, but he gently loosens your clenched fists and reminds you that peace does not come from knowing everything, but from trusting the one who does. There is a humility in breathing that we often overlook. It is the body's quiet confession that life is received, not manufactured. You did not create your own breath, and you do not sustain it by effort alone. It is given to why, moment by moment. In the same way, the strength you need for this season is not something you must force into existence. It will be given, often just in time, often in ways that surprise you. God has never required you to live on tomorrow's strength today. You may look around and feel as though others are moving ahead while you remain stuck, as though life has placed you on pause while the LD carries on without you. This can be one of the sharpest pains of all, the feeling of being left behind. Yet God's timing is not a race, and his pauses are never punishments. Sometimes he stills you not because you are failing, but because there is something he wants you to see, something that would be missed in the rush. In the stillness, truths rise that are easily drowned out by busyness. You begin to notice how much of your identity has been tied to outcomes rather than obedience, to results rather than relationship. God is patient as he untangles these knots within you. He is less interested in what you achieve through this season than in who you are becoming because of it. Outcomes matter, yes, but they are not ultimate. Character endures when circumstances change. When God says, the outcome is in his hands, he is freeing you from the tyranny of control. Control promises safety but delivers exhaustion. It whispers that if you plan enough, worry enough, prepare enough, you can avoid pain. Yet experience has taught you otherwise. Pain arrives uninvited, and no amount of control can fully keep it at bay. Trust, on the other hand, does not eliminate pain, but it gives pain a context, a boundary, a meaning beyond itself. This season will not break you, though it may break some illusions you have carried for a long time. It may break the belief that you must always be strong, always certain, always composed. It may break the habit of measuring your worth by productivity or approval. These breakings, though uncomfortable, are not destructive. They are clarifying. They mar space for a truer, deeper strength to take root, one that is not dependent on favorable conditions. You might feel as though you are being asked to trust God in ways you never had to before. Trust him with unanswered prayers. Trust him with prolonged waiting. Trust him with doors that remain closed, no matter how often you knock. This kind of trust stretches the soul. It feels risky, even reckless at times. But God has never asked you to trust blindly. He asks you to trust based on who he has shown himself to be, again and again, across the long story of faithfulness. Remember how many times you have already been carried through what once felt unbearable. At the time, you may have thought, this will undo me, and yet, here you are, changed, yes, scarred perhaps, but still standing. Still breathing, still held. These memories are not meant to make you proud of your endurance, but grateful for God's sustaining grace. They are signposts, pointing backward and forward at once, saying, the same God who carried you then will carry you now. Breathing also slows your thoughts, creating space between stimulus and response. In that space, wisdom often appears. You begin to respond rather than react, to listen rather than assume, to pray rather than panic. God is not merely concerned with getting you through this season, he is teaching you how to live differently within it. He is shaping habits of trust that will serve you long after the particular struggle has passed. There is something sacred about learning to wait with God, instead of merely waiting for Him. Waiting with God acknowledges His presence in the delay, not just His role in ending it. It recognizes that even now, even here, He is active. Not always in visible ways, but in the quiet rearranging of your heart, in the subtle strengthening of your spirit. Waiting becomes less about counting the days until change, and more about discovering God within the days as they are. You may fear that if you stop pushing, you will lose momentum, that opportunities will slip away and doors will close forever. But God is not limited by your pauses. What He intends for you cannot be thwarted by rest or reflection. If anything, rest sharpens your vision and prepares you to while more faithfully when the time comes. He knows how to restore what is missed and redeem what seems delayed. As you breathe, you may notice resistance within yourself. A part of you may insist that relaxing your grip is irresponsible, that vigilance is necessary for survival. This voice is familiar, and it has kept you alert through many storms. God does not silence it harshly. He gently shows it. That vigilance can coexist with peace, that awareness does not require anxiety. You can be attentive without being afraid, engaged without being consumed. This season will not break you because it is not stronger than the God who walks through it with you. Seasons change by nature. They are temporary by design. Even the longest winter eventually yields to spring, though it may feel endless while you are standing in the cold. God's promises are not seasonal. They do not expire when circumstances grow harsh. They remain steady and sure, even when everything else feels uncertain. You are learning, perhaps slowly and imperfectly, that faith is not the absence of fear, but the choice to trust God in spite of it. Fear may still knock at your door, still whisper worst-case scenarios late at night. Faith does not pretend these whispers do not exist. It simply refuses to let them have the final word. Each time you choose to breathe instead of panic, you are quietly declaring which voice you will ultimately believe. There is a tenderness in God's reassurance that this season will not break you. He does not say it with indifference, as though your pain were insignificant. He says it with a authority born of love, knowing both the depth of the trial and the depth of His commitment to you. He knows exactly how far the season can go, and no further. There are boundaries you cannot see, limits set by grace. In time, you may look back and recognize that some of the most important growth in your life occurred not during moments of triumph, but during periods of uncertainty like this one. Why? May see how your prayers became more honest, your compassion more expansive, your dependence on God more genuine. These fruits often grow slowly, beneath the surface, unnoticed until much later. God is patient with this process. He is not in a hurry to harvest what is still maturing. For now, breathing is enough. You do not need to solve everything today. You do not need to carry tomorrow's BU. Wardens into this moment. God gives daily bread, not lifetime supplies. There is mercy in this limitation, though it may frustrate you at times. It keeps you close, returning again and again to the source, rather than wandering off in self-sufficiency. As the rhythm of breath steadies you, you may begin to sense a quiet confidence taking shape, not loud or boastful, but resilient. It is the confident CE that comes from knowing you are held, even when answers are scarce. This confidence does not erase pain, but it changes how you carry it. Pain becomes something you endure with God, rather than something you face alone, and so the invitation remains before you, gentle yet persistent. Breathe in the midst of uncertainty. Breathe when prayers feel unanswered. Breathe when the night feels long and the morning seems far away. Each breath is a reminder that God is present, that the outcome is not resting on your fragile shoulders, that this season, however demanding, has not been given permission to destroy you. It can press, it can test, it can refine, but it cannot claim what ultimately belongs to Him. And even as you continue to walk through days that feel unresolved, there is a quiet asu, Rants growing beneath the surface, an assurance that what God is doing now is connected to what he will reveal later, and that the story unfolding around you has not reached its most meaningful pages yet, even if at times it feels as though you are standing in the middle of a sentence, waiting for the next word to appear, trusting that the author knows exactly where it is going and why this partic. Eula pause, this particular breath, matters more than you can currently understand, because within it he is teaching you not only how to survive, but how to remain open, faithful, and awake to his presence as the days continue forward, without yet revealing how or when the long-awaited shift will arrive, leaving you here, still breathing, still listening, still learning to rest in hands that have ever failed you and are not about to begin now, even as the path ahead remains partially hidden and the invitation to trust continues, quietly asking you once again to stay, to breathe, and to walk on without yet seeing where the next turn will lead. There is something profoundly humbling about realizing that God's instruction to breathe comes not at the end of the struggle, but often right in the middle of it. He does not wait for the storm to pass before he speaks peace. He speaks peace so that you may endure the storm. This is a peace that does not deny reality, nor does it pretend that pain is insignificant. Instead, it anchors you to a deeper reality, one where God's sovereignty is not threatened by chaos and his goodness is not diminished by delay. In this space, breathing becomes a way of remaining present to grace, even when circumstances urge you to flee into fear. We are so accustomed to thinking that transformation must be loud and immediate that we miss the slow, faithful work God is doing beneath the surface. Like roots growing unseen beneath the soil, his purposes often develop in hidden places. You may feel as though nothing is changing, yet beneath the weight of waiting, something within you is strengthening. God is shaping endurance, patience, and trust in ways that could not be formed in times of ease. He is preparing you to carry blessings you have prayed for, blessings that would overwhelm you if given too soon. The outcome being in God's hands does not mean your choices are irrelevant. Rather, it means your choices are freed from the crushing pressure of final responsibility. You can act with courage because failure is not the ultimate judge of your worth. You can rest without guilt because rest itself is an act of obedience. When you breathe, you step out of the illusion that everything depends on you and into the truth that God invites you to walk with him, not replace him. There is also a kindness in God's refusal to rush the process. He were to remove every discomfort the moment you felt it, you might never learn how deeply you are held. Pain, while never good in itself, can become a teacher when placed in God's hands. It reveals where you have built your security on fragile things and gently calls you to build on something stronger. Breathing in these moments is like loosening your grip on what cannot save you and placing our trust in what can. You may notice that fear often speaks in absolutes. It tells you that this season will never end, that relief is impossible, that you are weaker than you thought. God's voice, by contrast, is patient and precise. He does not shout over your fear, he outlasts it. His promise that this season will not break you is not an emotional reassurance but a spiritual certainty. It is grounded in his nature, not your perception. Even when you feel close to the edge, you are still within his care. The act of breathing draws your attention back to the present, away from imagined futures that drain your strength. God meets you in the present moment, not in the catastrophic scenarios your mind invents. He gives grace for today, not for every possible tomorrow. When you breathe, you accept today's grace and leave tomorrow's worries where they belong, in his capable hands. There is also an invitation here to be gentle with yourself. God is not surprised by your weariness, nor is he disappointed by your need for rest. He knows that you are dust, formed beautifully yet vulnerably. His call to breathe is a reminder that you are allowed to be human in his presence. You do not need to perform strength for him. You are already known and loved. As you continue through this season, you may find that God's reassurance does not remove all tension at once. Instead, It teaches you how to live faithfully within it. You learn to carry hope alongside uncertainty, trust alongside unanswered questions. This coexistence is not a failure of faith, but a sign of maturity. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to keep walking even when doubt remains. The world often tells you that rest must be earned, that peace is a reward for productivity. God, however, offers peace as a gift, freely given, even when you feel least deserving. He invites you to rest, not because everything is finished, but because He is faithful. Breathing becomes a way of receiving what you can, not manufacture on your own. You may also discover that as you breathe and release control, relationships begin to shift. You become less reactive, more attentive, more compassionate. When you are no longer consumed by fear of outcomes, you can be present with people as they are, not as obstacles or solutions. God uses this season to soften your heart, to teach you how to love without conditions, to listen without rushing to fix. There is a paradox in trusting God with the outcome. It often leads to greater clarity about what you are called to do. When anxiety loosens its grip, discernment grows sharper. You begin to sense which battles are yours to fight and which ones you are meant to surrender. Breathing creates space for wisdom to emerge, wisdom that cannot be accessed in a state of constant urgency. God's assurance that this season will not break you also carries an implicit promise that you will not emerge unchanged. You are being formed, refined, and strengthened in ways that will one day make sense, even if they do not now. The resilience growing within you is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet and steady, like a foundation being laid. This resilience is not about hardening yourself against pain, but about deepening your capacity to trust. In moments when you feel tempted to measure your progress by external signs, God invites you to look inward. Are you quicker to forgive than before? Are you more aware of His presence in ordinary moments? Are you learning to rest without guilt? These are signs of growth that often go unnoticed, yet they matter deeply in the economy of grace. Breathing also reminds you that God's timeline is not a reflection of His concern. Delays are not denials, and waiting is not wasted. What feels like inactivity may be divine preparation. God is aligning circumstances, shaping character, and orchestrating events beyond your awareness. Trusting Him with the outcome means believing that nothing is happening randomly, even when it feels confusing. You may still feel moments of panic, moments when breathing feels difficult and faith feels fragile. In those moments, God does not withdraw. He remains present, steady, patient. He does not demand that you feel calm. He invites you to return to Him again and again. Faithfulness is not measured by uninterrupted peace, but by repeated turning. As this season continues, you may notice that your prayers change. They become less about controlling outcomes and more about seeking God's presence. You ask less for explanations and more for strength. This shift is subtle yet significant. It reflects a growing trust that God's character is enough, even when His plans are not yet clear. Here is also an invitation to hope here, not a fragile hope tied to specific results, but a durable hope rooted in who God is. This hope does not insist that everything will turn out according to your expectations. It trusts that whatever unfolds will not be beyond God's redemptive reach. Breathing becomes a way of choosing hope in small, steady increments. You may find yourself grieving what this season has cost you. Losses, whether visible or hidden, leave their mark. God does not rush you through grief or shame you for feeling it. He meets you there, holding space for sorrow, while gently reminding you that grief does not have the final word. The promise that this season will not break you includes the promise that God is with you in every loss you endure. As you breathe, you may begin to sense a quiet confidence replacing frantic striving. This confidence is not rooted in certainty about the future, but in trust in God's faithfulness. You become less driven by fear of failure and more guided by obedience. This shift does not make life easier, but it makes it steadier. God's hands, holding the outcome, are not distant or detached, they are involved, attentive, and purposeful. He is not watching from afar, waiting to see how you perform. He is walking with you, carrying you when necessary, guiding you when you are able. Breathing is a way of acknowledging His nearness, even when you cannot feel it. You may notice that the more you practice this kind of trust, the more space you create for joy to return in unexpected ways. Joy does not always arrive with resolution. Sometimes it appears in the middle of uncertainty, surprising and gentle. It is a reminder that God's goodness is not postponed until the end of the story. It is present even now. This season, with all its weight and complexity, is teaching you how to live with open hands, to receive without clinging, to give without fear, to trust without full understanding. Breathing becomes a symbol of this openness, a rhythm of receiving and releasing, of trusting and resting. As you continue, there will be days when breathing feels natural and days when it feels forced. God is patient with both. He is not keeping score, He is cultivating relationship. Each breath, whether calm or shaky, is still a breath given by Him, sustained by His grace. You are learning, P.S. slowly, that being held by God does not mean being spared from difficulty. It means being secured within it. The promise that this season will not break you is a promise of preservation, not exemption. You are being kept even as you are being changed. And so the invitation remains, gentle and persistent, to breathe when fear tightens your chest, to trust when outcomes feel uncertain, to rest when your instinct is to strive. God continues to speak into the depth of your weariness, not with urgency or condemnation, but with a steady assurance that His hands have not loosened their grip, that His purposes are still unfolding, and that even now, in the midst of all that remains unresolved, He is at work within you, sustaining you, shaping you, and leading you forward step by step. And when at last you sense this season loosening its hold, you may realize that what carried you through was not your own strength, nor your ability to understand every twist of the path, but the quiet faithfulness of a God who asked you to breathe and promised to hold the outcome. You will see that you were not preserved because you never wavered, but because His hands never slipped. This season did not break you. It revealed what was already true, that you are sustained by grace deeper than fear, and guided by wisdom greater than your own. And as you step forward, still breathing, still trusting, you will carry with you the settled assurance that whatever comes next will meet you in those same faithful hands, where your life has always been held, and where it will always remain.